21, 1940, between the British Expeditionary Force and French troops on one side and the Wehrmacht during the French campaign in World War II in the area of Arras. The German invasion of France began on May 10, 1940. As a result of the successful breakthrough of Wehrmacht armored units through the Ardennes, the British Expeditionary Force, BF, found itself cut off from the main French forces and pressed against the sea in northern France, creating the threat of its complete destruction. On May 20, the 7th Panzer Division, commanded by Erwin Rommel, reached Arras. The advance of the German fascist armored units to the coast of the English Channel meant the cutting of the Allied grouping in northern France. On May 20, Hitler set new tasks for the Wehrmacht, to destroy the isolated French, British, and Belgian forces, and to begin preparations for an offensive in central France. On May 21, Weygand arrived in Ypres, where he intended to hold a meeting with the commanders of the cut-off forces. However, the commander of the British Expeditionary Forces, General Gort, did not attend the meeting. Weygand discussed the situation with King Leopold III of Belgium and the commander of the First Army Group, General Bayet, proposing to organize a counterattack with the forces of the cut-off armies to the south in order to connect with the French troops at the Somme. After outlining the general features of the counterattack and entrusting General Bayet with its execution, Weygand departed for Paris. Only 2 hours after his departure did General Gort arrive. General Bayet acquainted him with the plan of Weygand. No specific measures for conducting the maneuver were agreed upon. On the same day, Bayet died in a car accident. The Allied armies, isolated in Flanders, lost their commander who had been tasked with coordinating the actions of French, British, and Belgian forces. General Blanchard, the commander of the First French Army, was appointed as the commander of the First Army Group, and he still had to be brought up to speed. On May 22, a meeting of the Allied Supreme Council was held in Vincennes. Weygand presented his plan for a counteroffensive and optimistically stated, "The German tank divisions must perish in the trap they have fallen into, which will close behind them." He persistently demanded support from the English aviation, but did not receive any concrete promises from Churchill. The Allied Supreme Council approved Weygand's proposals, but this plan remained on paper. Commander of the BF John Gort decided to retreat to the port of Dunkirk for further evacuation to England. To secure the retreat, on May 21, forces from 2 infantry divisions and an armored brigade consisting of 2 tank regiments decided to counterattack German troops to the south of Arras. In fact, the counterattack was carried out by 1 infantry regiment and 2 tank battalions. On May 21, 1940, 2 columns, codenamed Frankforce, consisting of 58 Matilda I light tanks, 16 Matilda II, and 14 Vickers Mk6 light tanks, supported by 2,000 soldiers, advanced south of Arras. They quickly moved forward, encountering little resistance and taking prisoners. However, they soon faced heavy artillery, 8.8 cm flak and 10.5 cm howitzers Lu FH-18, and infantry. Thus, the British offensive was halted at the cost of heavy German losses. The Germans took advantage of this to launch an offensive on Arras, but were halted by the French armored forces of the 3rd Light Mechanized Division. The French troops captured about 400 German soldiers and destroyed several German tanks. The French actions were so bold that the commander of the 7th Tank Division, Rommel, believed he was being attacked by 5 French divisions. It was only with the support of Luftwaffe aviation that Rommel was able to repel the French armored attack on the evening of May 21. As a result of the counterattack in the area of operations of the 4th Army Corps of the Wehrmacht, significant difficulties arose. The German command, fearing that this was the beginning of a large-scale counteroffensive, hastily began to transfer reinforcements. On the night of May 22, when 2 French divisions launched an offensive in the Arras area, the British command halted the advance of their troops, and a day later they withdrew from Arras. Thus ended the first and last attempt of the Allied forces, pressed to the sea, to connect with the main forces. The commander of the First Army Group, General Blanchard, was forced to withdraw his troops to the line of the canals of Dore, La Bassée, and Bethune. On May 23, Guderian's tank corps, blocking Boulogne and Calais, reached the line of the AA Canal about 20 kilometers from Dunkirk. On the right flank of Guderian's troops, Reinhardt's tank corps reached the line of canals from Saint-Omer to Aire. There was an immediate threat of Dunkirk being captured by German fascist forces. However, on May 24, the commander of Army Group A, Rundstedt, with Hitler's approval, who arrived at his headquarters that day, ordered the tank forces to temporarily halt at the line of Gravelines, Saint-Omer, Bethune, 16 kilometers from Dunkirk. On May 26, the German offensive resumed, but the British managed to regroup their forces in 2 days and held the approaches to Dunkirk. As a result, by June 4, 198,229 British and 139,997 French soldiers and officers were evacuated to England. All equipment and heavy weapons were left behind.